So this video is going to be your ultimate guide to all of the weapons inside Halo Infinite. Now these can be changed in the future for better weapon balancing, but as it currently stands, this video is going to give you all the stats to all of these weapons. If you enjoy weapon stat breakdowns, weapon comparisons, and just tips and tricks for your favourite first-person shooter, don't forget to subscribe to the channel as we're trying to reach our goal of 10,000 subscribers. And click that link in the description down below and subscribe to our second channel. We will be posting gameplay content for Halo Infinite over there as well. So before we get into any of the details of the specific weapons, I do need to clarify a few things regarding the testing before we get into all of that. The first thing is regarding reload times. Now, some weapons like plasma weapons don't exactly have a reload time, but if you do fire them enough, they actually have like a recharge time instead, which plays this weird animation where you need to stop firing and then after that you can start firing again. And on top of that, we also noticed that you can see a percentage. Instead of showing like an ammo count, it shows a percentage instead. So when you fire, it goes down in percentages. And this works for each of the plasma weapons as well, but we converted this all to the number of shots you would get inside a magazine, for example. And then also the recharge time we just calculated as a reload time, just to make it simpler to understand. And then also on top of that, all the health was based off 2000 health, because that's the kind of health you get inside Halo Infinite. So let's start off simple with the MA40, because it does get a bit complicated after this one. So the rate of fire is 720 rounds per minute. The base damage and the headshot damage is exactly the same at 120 for one shot. Then the shots to kill is 17 shots to kill. The DPS is 1440. The base TTK is going to be 1334 milliseconds. The reload time is basically 1 second almost, and the magazine capacity is 36. And on screen just now what we'll do is we'll show you the recoil pattern for this gun as well. ADSing doesn't actually affect recoil for any weapon besides a few, and I'll show you that in just a moment. But as you can see, the recoil is a lot kind of clustered and there's a lot of side-to-side recoil with this weapon, so it's going to be hard to hit kind of every single shot. Even if you are pulling down to control it, you can get relatively accurate, but at longer ranges it will be difficult. Next up, we have another simple one. We've got the Pulse Carbine. Now the Pulse Carbine has a rate of fire of 420 rounds per minute. It does a base damage of 250, headshot damage is also 250 per shot. The shots to kill is 8 shots to kill, and that means it's a 5-round burst weapon, and it's going to take 2 bursts to kill, which is actually really quick in this game. The base DPS is 1750. The base TTK is 1000 milliseconds, which is 1 second. The reload time is 1.53 seconds, and the mag size is 25, so you can fire off basically 25 bullets before you need to do that kind of weird wait before you can fire again. So in terms of recoil for the Pulse Carbine, as you can see, because it is one of those plasma weapons, it has basically 0 recoil, but you do get that weird wait after you fire the gun because it needs to recharge. Next, we've got another easy weapon, which is a 3-round burst rifle, and that's the BR75. Really popular for long range inside Halo. The rate of fire is 410 rounds per minute. The base damage is 130. Headshot damage is also 130. The shots to kill is 16 shots to kill. The base DPS for this gun, that's damage per second, is 889. The base TTK for this weapon is 2196 milliseconds, which is just over 2 seconds. And the reload time is 1.47 seconds, and the magazine size is 36. So the first thing you'll notice about the BR rifle is that it actually has no recoil whatsoever. So even though it does kill slower than the full auto rifle in this game, it does basically not move whatsoever. So that is a definite benefit. Next up, we have the VK78 Commando assault rifle. The rate of fire for this gun is 420 rounds per minute. It is a full auto rifle. The base damage is 200. The headshot damage is also 200. Shots to kill is 10. The base DPS for this gun is 1400. The base TTK is 1286 milliseconds. The reload time is 1.4 seconds, and the magazine size is 20 rounds. So one quite cool thing about this gun is that you do get a pretty nice optic when you zoom in. And then also in terms of recoil, it does go straight upwards and it is a pretty hard kick, especially at longer ranges. But all you need to do is pull down a little bit and you should be able to control it relatively easily, but it still has a bit more recoil than something like the burst rifle. Next up we have the shock rifle, which is slightly different to a lot of the other weapons in the game. Now starting off with kind of like the base stats, the rate of fire for this gun is 223 rounds per minute. The base damage is 490, the headshot damage is 794. Now the shots to kill, if you're landing only body shots, is going to be 5 shots to kill. The base DPS, again, it's going to be 1822. The base TTK is 1077 milliseconds. The reload time is 3 seconds more or less, and the magazine capacity is 12. Now this is a 3-round burst rifle and it takes 1 burst to kill to the head. But another thing this gun also does is it also does damage to nearby targets as well. And if you're fired to any nearby targets, as you can see, this electrocution goes through all of these different targets here, which is pretty cool to see that it does damage to not just one target. In terms of recoil, this gun has no recoil because it is just a single fire weapon and it just fires in the same spot. The next gun we have is the trusty sidekick pistol, and this has a rate of fire of 400 rounds per minute. The base damage is 230, which is actually pretty good for a pistol. The headshot damage is also 230. The shots to kill is 9 shots to kill. The base DPS for this gun is 1534. The base TTK is 1200 milliseconds. The reload time is 0.85 seconds. This gun reloads insanely fast. And the magazine size is 12 rounds. And again, looking at recoil for this gun, it's pretty much non-existent, especially at those kind of closer ranges. It kind of more or less fires in the same spot. It does go up a little bit with a little bit of side-to-side bounce, but it's very easy to manage. Next up, we have the Mangler. Now, this is a weird gun, especially the way it actually performs in game. So, in terms of the rate of fire, is 108 rounds per minute. Now, the base damage for this gun is 710, but when you fire the second shot, it goes down to 690, and when you fire the third shot, it goes to 1000. So it changes the damage depending on which shot you land. It's a bit weird in my opinion, and either way, even if it stayed at 710 damage consistently, it still would have been a 3-shot kill, so I'm not too sure why they wanted to make it so it changes the damage on the weapon. Regardless of that, we couldn't really calculate DPS off the back of this because the damage is constantly changing. But the TTK for this gun, because it is a 3-shot kill, is 1112 milliseconds, which is still relatively quick. And then the reload time is 1.75 seconds. The magazine capacity is 8 rounds. And like I said, the shots that you take deal different amounts of damage. Now, the recoil for the Mangler is pretty bad too. Every time you fire a shot, it kicks up considerably, as you can see. Now, even trying to control that is going to be quite difficult. I'm trying my best here to control this and pull down as much as I can. And it's kind of somewhat getting it in the same location. But like I said, there's a lot of kick to this gun. Next up, we have the plasma pistol. And the plasma pistol is a really popular gun. In terms of the rate of fire, is 534 rounds per minute if you can get the max trigger cap on this gun. The base damage is 200. The headshot damage is also 200. The shots to kill is 10 shots to kill, and the base DPS for this gun is 1780. The base TTK for this gun is 1012 milliseconds. The reload time is 1.33 seconds, which is basically that recharge time, and the magazine size is 16, so it takes 16 shots to fire until you get that 1.33 second recharge time. Again, with the recoil in this gun, it does pretty much fire in the same spot because it is one of those plasma rifles. Once again, they do kind of just hit the same spot more or less consistently, so there's not really much recoil to this gun. Next up, we have another really weird gun, and we've got the Disruptor this time. And the Disruptor is such a weird weapon when it comes to how it does damage. So we'll take a look at the kind of base stats, and then I'll show you what the weird things are. So for the rate of fire is 269 rounds per minute. That doesn't change. The base damage is 30. The headshot damage is also 30, but this is really weird. The shots to kill is 6, and you'll be wondering how the hell is the shots to kill 6 when the base damage is 30. I'll get onto that in just a second. The base DPS we can't actually calculate because the damage actually varies with this weapon. The base TTK on this gun is 1116 milliseconds. The reload time is 1.3 seconds. The mag size is 10. And then for each third shot on this gun, it gives you like a 200% damage modifier. It's such a weird thing. I'll actually show you this in game as well. So for example, you fire the first shot, it's 30. The second shot is 30. Then the third shot goes to 700. Then 730, then 760. Then it goes up to 1400. Then again, it does the exact same thing repeatedly over and over again. It's such a weird concept. In terms of recoil though, there's not any recoil with this gun. As you can see, it fires in the same spot. All the kind of plasma rifles are very similar in this way. Moving on now, we have the only shotgun in the game, which is the Bulldog, and the rate of fire for this gun is 107 rounds per minute. The base damage if you land all of your pellets is 1000. The headshot damage again is exactly the same. The shots to kill is 2 regardless of where you hit your shots. The base DPS on this gun is 1784. The base TTK is 561 milliseconds. The reload time is 2 seconds. The mag size is 7. And if you only land one pellet out of your shotgun burst, or whatever you want to call it, your shotgun spread, it's only 100 damage you're dealing. So in terms of your shotgun spread, as you can see, it is quite tightly compact together. You shouldn't really be shooting this gun at this far a distance in my opinion. But as you can see, it more or less hits the same spot, and the spread is basically what the reticle is, or the kind of crosshairs more or less. The Heatwave is another weird weapon, and we'll get onto its weird stat in just a moment. But in terms of its base stats, the rate of fire is 98 rounds per minute. The base damage is 800 damage. The headshot damage is also 800 damage as well. The shots to kill off the back of that will be 3 shots to kill. The base DPS is 1307. The base TTK is 1225 milliseconds. The reload time is 3.48 seconds, and the mag size is 8. Now, if you only land one pellet on an enemy target, not all 4 of your shots, you will be dealing 200 damage. So the weird thing about this gun is not only does it fire horizontally, you can also fire it vertically as well. So it has 2 different fire modes, and then on top of that, the bullets actually bounce off the wall. So as you can see, the bullets are flying past me here. If I do it vertically, it'll do the exact same thing. So the bullets actually do damage to people if it bounces off the wall and hits back onto someone. For example, if you stood at it yourself, it will deal damage to me as well. So as you can see, this is a pretty weird gun. The Sentinel beam is another really weird weapon. It kind of fires a beam of light. It's not actually like a fire rate, but we still managed to calculate it anyway, just because of the way it's actually coded into the game. So rate of fire is 3677 rounds per minute. The base damage is 30, headshot damage is also 30. Shots to kill is 67 shots to kill. The base DPS is 1839. The base TTK is 1077 milliseconds. The reload time, or the recharge time on this gun, is 2.58 seconds. The mag size is 250. That's the way it is stated in game. And you can cancel the reload on this gun at the charge of 50. So you can do it at any increment of 50. So it could be at 50, 100, 150, 200, or 250 if you wanted to cancel the reload at any stage. So I just want to quickly show you how this weapon actually works. And as you can see, when you fire it, it just continuous fire of a straight beam of light. But as you can see in the bottom corner here, it has 250 at the bottom. So I'm just going to count these as bullets more or less. And that is how we calculated the rate of fire of this weapon. Next up, we have another really weird weapon, and that is the Needler. Now, I'll get onto why this weapon is weird in just a moment, but in terms of its base stats, the rate of fire is 732 rounds per minute. The base damage is 70 to the head and 70 to the body. The shots to kill is 29 shots to kill. The base DPS on this gun is 854. That's just because the damage is quite low. The base TTK is 2296 milliseconds. Reload time is 1.20 seconds, or the recharge time, and the magazine size is 26. Now, what makes the Needler weird is that if you fire your bullet, it actually follows the target, plus the bullet velocity on this gun is very slow. As you can see, the bullet is really landing quite late, and it also follows the target if you're on the target. Now, in terms of recoil, it does have quite a bit of recoil because it's not a pulse weapon, it's actually firing needles, so it's going to have a bit of recoil there. There's a lot of side-to-side bounce there. Next up, we have the Stalker rifle. Now, the rate of fire for the Stalker rifle is 147 rounds per minute. The base damage is 660, headshot damage is also 660 as well. The shots to kill is 4 shots to kill. The base DPS for this gun is 1,617. The base time to kill for this gun is 1,225 milliseconds. The reload time is 2.86 seconds. The mag size is 7 bullets in a mag, which is equivalent to 22% of this weapon, which is a bit of a weird way to kind of calculate how many bullets you have. And it's just basically a semi-automatic rifle. Even though it's kind of called a plasma rifle, it is a semi-auto gun. So in terms of recoil, we'll take a look at it here. It keeps firing in the same spot. It does fire relatively slow, and you do get that recharge. But as you can see, it does more or less fire in that same spot, so you don't need to worry about recoil. Next up, we have another easy weapon, and that's the S7 Sniper. And the rate of fire for this gun is 85 rounds per minute. The base damage is 1,430, and that's if you're landing a body shot. Now, if you do land a headshot, you will get a one-shot kill because the damage is 2,000, and that is exactly the amount of health you get as a Spartan player. Now, the shots to kill is 2 shots to kill if you're landing body shots. The DPS, if you're landing body shots, is 2,026. The TTK, if you're landing body shots only, is 706 milliseconds. The reload time is 2.25 seconds. The mag size is 4. And in terms of recoil for this gun, there pretty much is none because it is a sniper rifle. It fires in the same spot constantly. And also, not to mention, this gun is actually hit scan as well. It almost has no bullet drop whatsoever. So wherever you're going to aim, it's going to hit the target. Doesn't matter where it goes, which is very similar to the plasma rifles. Next up, we have another easy weapon, which is the Skewer. Now, this is the easiest of all of them because it doesn't have a rate of fire because it only fires 1 bullet. The base damage is 2,000. The headshot damage is also 2,000. It has 1 shot to kill. There's no DPS. There's no TTK. The reload time is 2.6 seconds. The mag size is 1, and it's always a 1-shot kill. Now, obviously, it doesn't have any recoil either, so there's nothing really to show you there. This is the fastest killing weapon in the game, essentially, because it only requires 1 bullet. The only issue with that is it's not very forgiving whatsoever. Next up, we have the Cindershot. Now, this is quite a cool weapon that has quite a unique thing, which we'll show you in just a moment. But in terms of its base stats, the rate of fire is 95 rounds per minute. The base damage is 1,000. The headshot damage is also 1,000 as well. The shots to kill is going to be 2 shots to kill. The DPS is 1,584. The base TTK is 632 milliseconds. The reload time is 4 seconds on this gun. The magazine size is 6 rounds. And the damage that we're calculating here is for a direct impact. You can kind of get splash damage on this weapon as well, but we didn't really calculate that. Now, the cool thing about this weapon is you can actually control where the projectile goes. So if you fire it, you can push it left, you can push it right, you can push it up, you can push it down. It just completely depends up to yourself. If you ADS and fire it, it will go more or less straight. Now, if you don't ADS and fire this weapon, it actually drops quite early. As you can see, it drops quite early, so you do want to make sure you're ADSing when you're firing this gun. Next up, we have a really weird weapon, and that is the Ravager. And the Ravager has some crazy stats, so we'll get on into them just now. So for the rate of fire of the base weapon, it's 689 rounds per minute. The base damage is 300. The headshot damage is also 300. The shots to kill is 7 shots to kill. The base DPS is 1,230. The base TTK is 1,464. The reload time is 3.26 seconds. The mag size is 15, but it also has a secondary fire mode. So the first fire mode I just mentioned is actually the burst fire mode. And then the second is the charged damage. So you can charge this weapon up and then fire it. Now, to charge this weapon, it takes 1.46 seconds, and that's to charge it fully. And then the base damage on that is 1,450, whether you land a headshot or a body shot, it doesn't matter. But it will still be a 1-shot kill. Now, the reason why is because it does do damage over time to the target. So it does kind of like incendiary damage to the target over time. So you will get a 1-shot kill if you do land a direct hit. That incendiary damage is going to be about 320 milliseconds long. So that would be technically what your time to kill is, because the shot when you fire it doesn't actually count. And then we calculate the TTK from there. So it's going to be 320 milliseconds. So what I want to show you here is actually that incendiary damage. So if we charge this weapon up fully and then fire it, get a direct hit. As you can see, we're still getting hit markers, and then the target dies. Now, if you do just tap the trigger, it's a burst fire weapon. Now, the bullets do hit into the ground, so it doesn't really go too far. So the targets do need to be pretty close to you, even if you need to burst fire. Next up, we have the Hydra, which is another really weird weapon as well. And let's go over the base stats for this gun first. So for the rate of fire, it's 97 rounds per minute. The base damage is 510, headshot damage is 510 as well. The shots to kill is 4 shots to kill, 825 DPS. It's 1,856 milliseconds for the TTK. The reload time is 5.62 seconds. The mag size is 6. Now, this is all for the lock-on mode for the Hydra. Then there's also a non-lock-on version of this weapon that you can switch to. And the damage for this is 980 damage. And that's for the first shot. And then the second shot is actually going to be 1,030 damage. So again, it's one of the weird ones where it changes its damage and depending on what shot you take. And this is going to make the Hydra a 2-shot kill at this point. The base DPS for that version of the gun is 1,585, and then the TTK is 619 milliseconds. So first we'll show you the non-lock-on version of this gun. So as you can see, it's 980 damage, and then it kills the opponent with 2,010 damage. Now if you do switch to the lock-on mode, as you can see, it's locking onto the targets here. Now, the reason why it's doing a bit more damage than I mentioned is because there's multiple targets there and it's doing damage to all those targets. But if you did just done that same test on one target, you will get 510 damage. And last but not least, we have another really easy weapon, which is the M41. And this is basically just a rocket launcher, more or less. So the rate of fire for this gun is 131 rounds per minute. If you land a direct hit, the damage is 2,000 damage, whether it's a headshot or a body shot, doesn't really matter. The shots to kill is 1 shot to kill. The base DPS on this gun is 4,367. That's if you could continuously fire, of course, but it does have a reload in between that time. The base DTK on this gun is 0 milliseconds, because if you do get a direct hit, is a 1-shot kill. The reload time is 2.63 seconds, and the magazine capacity is 2. And like I said, is more or less just a rocket launcher. So there we have it. There is your ultimate guide to every single weapon that can be fired inside Halo Infinite. If you enjoyed this video and you learned something new, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, as we're trying to reach our goal of 10,000 subscribers, and also leave a like on this video, as it took us a while to put this all together as well. And subscribe to our second channel, as we'll be posting tons of gameplay over there. And thank you very much for watching.